Hello everyone, my name is Sotirios, and today we're going to learn how to register an event in Google Analytics 4, and more specifically how to track a button click in Google Analytics 4. We need two different tools to achieve that. Obviously, we need a Google Analytics 4 account, which is the upgrade from Universal Analytics, the latest version of Google Analytics that we have available. And we also need a tool that is called Google Tag Manager. The Google Tag Manager is a tool that allows you to install tracking pixels in the back of your website. For those of you who don't have a Tag Manager account and you need to create one, it's very simple. All you have to do is you have to navigate to tagmanager.google.com. You can find the link in the description below. Then you need to click on create an account, follow through the steps. It's super easy. I'm telling you, in 2 to 3 minutes maximum, you will have a new Google Tag Manager account ready. From there, what you need to do is you need to install your Google Tag Manager container tag in the back of all your website pages. You need to treat it as if it's a Google Analytics tag. So you need to access your new container. You need to click on admin on the top left. And here there is an option on the second column that is called install tag manager. Once you click this option, here you're going to find the script. You need to take the script and install it in all the website pages. Depending now on the technology that you're using, if you are using, let's say, WordPress for your website, if you are using Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, sometimes these technologies, they will not ask you for the pixel, but they will only ask you for the Google Tag Manager container ID. So if you go to your admin panel, this is where you can find actually your ID. It's going to be on top of your second column, right? So a lot of the different technologies nowadays, they don't really ask you for the full Tag Manager tracking code. They only ask you for the Tag Manager ID, right? So that's the requirements, that's the prerequisites in order to be able to set up events on Google Analytics 4. Now, what is an event? For those of you who are new in digital marketing, right? So an event is any action on the website. So here I have one of my pages, and the user here can take a lot of different actions. He can interact with a lot of different ways. For example, he can click one of these buttons, and that's an anchor. So an event is basically, let's say, it can be somebody who clicked on this button and went all the way down to this anchor. This button here that is called a Get Started is also an event. People click here and it opens up a form that they can complete and get in touch with us, right? So that's another event that we can register. There are a lot of different actions, whether you are B2B or B2C, that it makes sense for you to keep an eye on, right? For example, if you are a B2B company, you need to track how many people register and complete the form. If you are B2C, maybe you need to track how many people click to add an item on the wish list, right? So any interaction that the user has with your website is an event. Before you go ahead and try to set up an event, keep in mind that the new version of Google Analytics can track some events by default. So if you go to admin and then you navigate to data streams and you click on your property, there is an option here that is called enhanced measurement. Okay, so this option here is called enhanced measurement. And if we click here on the little wheel, you will see a whole list of events that Google Analytics 4 can track by default, which means without us setting up anything. So the tool can track, obviously, page views. The tool can track scrolls, whether people are scrolling or not through your website, outbound clicks, site search, video engagement, file downloads. All these are events that the system can track by default. So my recommendation is enable enhanced measurement. Actually come here, select all these options, click save, and allow the system to track all these events by default. Now, let's say that you want to track something that is not part of this list. You want to track something very specific. In our case here, let's say we want to track how many people click on this marketing automation button here and go all the way down, because that's an anchor, right? So this is what we want to track. So that's the action that we want to track, and this action is not really tracked by default from Google Analytics 4. So what we need to do? What we need to do is we need to get started with Google Tag Manager. Step number one is you need to access your Google Tag Manager, and you need to click on variables here. Once you click on variables, you need to click on configure, which is the button on the top right. And once you click on configure, what you need to do is you need to scroll all the way down a little bit, and you need to enable all the options that are relevant to clicks. Why we need to do that, and what are these variables? We want to find out what makes this action, which is the click on the marketing automation button, unique. Okay, so we want to allow Google Tag Manager to monitor or to get some data from these button clicks, right? So that's why we want to enable these variables. So once we do that, my recommendation is for you to publish your Tag Manager. Tag Manager is a tool that we work on, and whatever we do is basically saved offline. In order to make these changes live, we need to submit our Tag Manager. So we need to click on the top right button, and we need to click submit and then publish. This will allow us to push these changes live, right? So we enabled a couple of variables here, and that's what we want to actually push to the live version of our Tag Manager. Now is the time for us to set up our event. Tag Manager works in a very straightforward way. There are two steps we need to take. We need to set up a tag. A tag defines where this event is going to live. In our case, this event is going to live within Google Analytics 4. And we need to set up a trigger. A trigger defines when this event is going to send information back to Google Analytics 4. So we're going to start by creating a new tag. So we're going to hit new tag, and we're going to give it a name. So we said here that we want to track how many people click on this button, right? So the marketing automation button. So I'm going to name it marketing automation event. Okay, so this is for us to be able to know what this tag is relevant to in the future through Google Tag Manager, right? And now we need to do two things. We need to configure the tag, and we need to configure the trigger. Let's start with the tag. We're going to click here on the tag, and what we need to select is very straightforward. We need to select Google Analytics GA4 Event. Okay, so we're going to click here on GA4 Event. We're going to give our event a name. What is this event name? This event name, basically, whatever we're going to name our event, this is what we're going to see on our Google Analytics 4 account, right? So when we come to our events report or any other report, whatever name we're going to give to our event, this is what we're going to see here on our GA4 property, right? So I'm going to name this marketing automation anchor, because that's an anchor. Okay, so you can name your event anything you like, really, right? So it doesn't really matter. The next thing that we need to do is we need to click this drop down button, and we need to tell Tag Manager where this event is going to live, right? So obviously I'm using this Tag Manager quite a bit, so my GA4 is already set up. If you are starting from scratch, if you are a new user, you need to manually insert the tracking ID, basically the property ID, of your Google Analytics. Where can you find this property ID? You need to go back to your Google Analytics, go to your admin panel, and once you go to your admin panel, I believe that you can find this on, not really the property settings, just give me 1 minute. Yeah, here. So you go to data streams, go to your admin panel, go to data streams, click on the data stream that you want to work on. And here you can see there is your measurement ID. This is the unique identifier of your GA4 account, right? So you need to copy this and you need to give this number here in this box, right? And that's more or less it. Now our tag is set up, right? So we set up a tag, we give it a name, we select Google Analytics GA4 event, we give our event a name, and we also define which GA4 account we want to use. Now, for the best part, what we need to do is we need to create a trigger, right? So we're going to come here, and I'm going to click the plus symbol to create a new trigger. Okay, I'm going to give this trigger name. So we said that trigger defines when this event is going to send information back to Google Analytics, right? So the trigger, I'm going to name it here, let's say marketing automation anchor. And again, that's a name that is basically internal. It's for ourselves to understand what we are doing in our tag manager, right? I'm going to configure my trigger now. And here, take a moment to think what you want to track. We don't want to track a page view. We want to track a click, right? So essentially, we want to track how many people come here and click on this button, the marketing automation button, right? So if you want to track a click, then you need to select click all elements, okay? And obviously, we don't want to track all the clicks. We want to only track some of the clicks, okay? But which clicks do we want to track? That's the best part of the event setup, right? So before we go there, I'm just going to save this configuration, right? So let's actually save our tag right here, right? So now we created a tag, it's an event, it's going to live within our GA4 account, and we have a trigger that is not yet correct, right? So we don't want to track all the clicks, we want to track some clicks. In order to understand now which, let's say, clicks we want to track, what we want to do is we want to preview our Google Tag Manager. So we want to click on this button on the top right that is called preview here. And once we click on preview, Google released a new tool that is called Google Tag Assistant. Okay, so now we're going to open our website with this tool that is called the Tag Assistant, right? Now, which page we want to get data from, right? So we're going to copy our URL. We're going to put it here in the box, and we're going to hit the start button. Okay, now the Tag Assistant is going to open up this page, and what you're going to see is on the bottom left corner, you're going to see a debugger, right? So you're going to see a mini, basically here, box that is called debug, is going to say debugger connected, right? So this is going to give you a signal that now you're using the debugger mode on the Tag Assistant. What do we want to do now? Now I want you to notice two things, right? So here I have on my browser this page open with the debugger connected. And next to it is the Tag Assistant, right? So this is basically the Tag Assistant, right? So what happens here is that when I click on different, let's say, buttons, if I go and I click on the marketing automation button here, and I go back to my Tag Assistant on the different, basically, tab here, which is the Tag Assistant, then here on the left-hand side, you're going to see the sequence of my actions, right? The sequence of my actions means where am I clicking, right? So where, basically, which buttons am I clicking on my website, right? So I believe, let me actually click one more time, go all the way up, we click on marketing automation, we go to our Tag Assistant. Okay, so the latest click is link click number 9. Okay, so if we go to link click number 9 and we go to variables here, these variables is what makes this click unique, right? And you don't have to be a coder or a web developer to understand these things. You just need to understand some basics, right? So some of the basics variables that we have to work with is everything that we enabled before. You remember we enabled a couple of options, the click class, element, ID, target, text, blah, 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 right? So these elements here is what makes this click unique. So we're going to use these elements basically to adjust our trigger. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my tag manager. I'm going to go and find my trigger. Let me actually check. Okay, marketing automation. This is my trigger. And now I'm going to edit it. And I'm going to say I don't want to track all the clicks. I want to track some clicks. But which clicks? The answer here is in the tag assistant. First of all, let's start with something easy. We want to track the clicks that they have a text. The click text is marketing automation, right? So I'm going to select the click text contains or equals. We're going to go with equals marketing automation. And let's add another parameter just to make sure that our event is 100% correct. So let's go with the click URL. So we're going to say that the click URL is basically this page here, right? So the click text equals marketing automation, and the click URL equals this page, right? So this is how basically I define that this is a unique click, right? So now basically we said to the system that we want to track clicks, but which clicks? The clicks that are, they have a click text that equals marketing automation, and the click URL equals what we see here from the tag assistant, the page that this button is on, right? So that's it, and I'm going to save my trigger. Okay, so I'm going to save my trigger, and obviously this trigger now is connected to our tag, right? So the tag that we built before, the marketing automation event here, the event is going to live in GA4 and is going to be connected to this trigger that is called marketing automation. Essentially, is only going to fire, send information back when someone clicks a button with these exact parameters, right? That's it in terms of the setup. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to submit, basically I'm going to submit my container. I'm going to send it live. We don't really need now the debugger anymore. So now there are a couple of ways that we can check whether this event implementation works. And the easiest way to do that is to use the Debug View on our Google Analytics 4. Now this is quite new. That's why we'll see now here how well it works. So here we're going to refresh, let's say, this page. This Debugger View actually tells you what is happening when on your website. So we're going to go here, we're going to click on the marketing automation button. And once we click here, we should be able to check to see basically that there is an event register, right? So we can already see this event actually being tracked here, marketing automation anchor. We already tracked 2 events as we were building it with the tag manager and all. So let me refresh. This debugger view is basically going to tell you whether this event actually works as expected. Now, obviously, this is not really now helping us to understand whether this is set up correctly. We can see these events actually that are registered here, but this is probably while we were setting up the event. So another way to check the implementation, and let's do that to make sure that the implementation is correct, is again with the help of Google Tag Manager, right? So we're going to go to our Tag Manager, we're going to preview it again. And we're going to insert the URL that we want to work with. We're going to start the debugger mode. And now again, we have the tag assistant on one window, and we have our page with the debugger connected on the other. And if we click on marketing automation and we go back to our tag manager and we select this link click, here we go. So here the system tells us which tags are fired, which tags basically are active on this page. we have a lot of different tags, but one of these tags is also the one that we built together, the marketing automation event tag, right? So this is going to allow us to double check whether the event is correctly set up, right? And now that we established that our event is already set up, from today onwards, we will be able to actually see this event on any of the reports on our Google Analytics 4. That's in a nutshell how we build events. Now, you may feel that this is too complicated, or let's say this is too much work. Truth to be told is not really as hard as it may seem, right? So all you have to do is you have to get familiar with Google Tag Manager and how Google Tag Manager works. So keep in mind that there is always a tag and a trigger that we want to create, right? So you create a tag, you're going to select GA4 Event, and from there you need to create a trigger, and the trigger is what is going to define which clicks you are going to track, right? So you're going to select here what is the element, what is the type of trigger that you want to create. Is it a click? Is it a form? Is it something, let's say, completely different, maybe a YouTube video or a form submission? Then you're going to preview your Google Tag Manager, and you should be able to set up the event. All the steps are listed in the description below. So if you have, let's say, doubts in terms of missing a few steps, you can advise the description. And thank you very much for watching. I hope that it was helpful for you to be able to understand how events work in Google Analytics 4. Have a great day wherever you are. Thank you.